Welcome back to another chilling episode of 15 Dark Facts for Dummies, where we dive into the unsettling and often horrifying truths that history and science have unearthed. These are the kinds of facts that you won't find in your typical history book or science class. But be warned, what you're about to hear may be difficult to stomach. Ready to confront the darkness? Let's begin. Fact 1. Human experimentation in Nazi Germany. During World War II, the Nazis committed unspeakable atrocities in the name of medical research. In their concentration camps, prisoners were subjected to gruesome experiments, freezing temperatures, poison tests, and surgeries performed without anesthesia. The suffering inflicted was beyond comprehension, leaving scars on history that will never heal. Fact 2. The Black Death's horrific toll. Imagine a disease so deadly, it wipes out a third of Europe's population. That's exactly what happened in the 14th century during the Black Death. Panic spread as quickly as the disease itself. People abandoned their families, and mass graves became the norm. It was a time of unimaginable fear and loss. Fact 3. The horrors of Unit 731. In Japan, during World War II, Unit 731 carried out some of the most horrific war crimes in history. Prisoners were subjected to vivisections, amputations, and lethal weapons testing, all without anesthesia. Men, women, and even children were treated like lab rats in a nightmarish chapter of human history. Fact 4. Project MKUltra. From the 1950s to the 1970s, the CIA secretly conducted Project MKUltra. This mind control program involved unwitting American citizens who were subjected to drugs like LSD, psychological torture, and brainwashing techniques. Many were left permanently scarred, their lives forever altered by the horrors they endured. Fact 5. The My Lai Massacre. In 1968, U.S. soldiers committed a heinous act in the village of My Lai, Vietnam. Hundreds of unarmed civilians, women, children, the elderly, were tortured, mutilated, and killed in cold blood. This dark stain on history remains one of the most shameful episodes of the Vietnam War. Fact 6. The Chernobyl Disaster. In 1986, the world witnessed one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. Chernobyl. The explosion released massive amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere, causing thousands of deaths from radiation sickness and cancer. Even today, the true extent of the disaster's impact is still being uncovered, with entire regions left uninhabitable. Fact 7. The Holodomor Genocide. From 1932 to 1933, millions of Ukrainians starved to death during the Holodomor, a man-made famine orchestrated by Joseph Stalin's Soviet regime. Food was deliberately withheld from the population, turning Ukraine's fertile lands into a vast graveyard. It's a dark chapter in history that many consider an act of genocide. Fact 8. The Rwandan Genocide. In just 100 days in 1994, over 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were slaughtered in the Rwandan genocide. Neighbors turned against neighbors in one of the most brutal and rapid episodes of mass violence in modern history. The world watched in horror as the genocide unfolded, largely standing by as the atrocities occurred. Fact 9. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. For 40 years, the U.S. government conducted the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, deceiving African-American men into believing they were receiving treatment for syphilis. In reality, they were left untreated, so researchers could study the disease's progression. This unethical experiment caused unnecessary suffering and death, leaving a lasting legacy of mistrust. Fact 10. The Armenian Genocide. During World War I, the Ottoman Empire systematically exterminated 1.5 million Armenians in what is now recognized as the Armenian Genocide. Men were executed, and women and children were forced on death marches, through the Syrian desert, where many perished. It was the first genocide of the 20th century, and its echoes are still felt today. Fact 11. The dark history of rubber in the Congo. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, King Leopold II of Belgium turned the Congo into his personal rubber factory. The Congolese people were subjected to forced labor, beatings, and mutilations. The human cost was staggering, with millions of lives lost in the pursuit of wealth. Fact 12. The Great Chinese Famine. From 1959 to 1961, the Great Chinese Famine took the lives of an estimated 15 to 45 million people. The famine was caused by the Communist Party's disastrous policies, and the government's refusal to acknowledge the crisis only made things worse. Millions starved, while the truth was buried beneath propaganda. Fact 13. The Khmer Rouge killing fields. Under Pol Pot's brutal regime, the Khmer Rouge killed approximately 2 million people, nearly a quarter of Cambodia's population. The victims were executed in mass graves known as killing fields, while others died from starvation, disease, and overwork. The horror of this genocide still haunts Cambodia today. Fact 14. The Manhattan Project's human testing. As part of the Manhattan Project, the U.S. government secretly conducted human radiation experiments on unwitting subjects. People were exposed to harmful levels of radiation, often without their knowledge or consent, all in the name of science. The legacy of these experiments is one of pain and betrayal. Fact 15. The Trail of Tears. In the 1830s, the U.S. government forcibly removed thousands of Native Americans from their ancestral lands, leading to the infamous Trail of Tears. Thousands perished from exposure, disease, and starvation during the grueling journey to designated Indian territory. It remains one of the darkest chapters in American history. And there you have it. 15 dark, disturbing facts that reveal just how deep the shadows of our world can go. Remember, history isn't just about what's written in books. It's about the truths that lurk in the dark corners, waiting to be uncovered. If you dare, join me next time as we continue our journey into the unknown. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.